Welcome again, and let's discuss how Ahmad Amin's Neo-Mu'tazilite ideas were influenced by Indian reformers like Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, Syed Ameer Ali, and Allama Iqbal. It isn't surprising with Ahmad Amin, Neo-Mu'tazilism in Egypt reached its peak. However, what Ahmad Amin as a propagator of Mu'tazilism advocates is strikingly similar to the Indian revival of the school of thought. And this resemblance, Ahmad Amin has openly expressed his profound admiration in one of his early essays. He acknowledged their pioneering efforts in blending traditional Islamic scholarship with modern Western sciences. Figures like Syed Ahmad Khan, Syed Ameer Ali, and Allama Iqbal played a key role in creating the missing link between the ancient and modern sciences, and that, of course, bridging the gap between Muslim cultures and European civilization. These intellectuals were equally adept in both the domains. Ahmad Amin praised their endeavors as a model for Egypt to follow, and from then on, he adopted and propagated their intellectual trajectory. The influence of these ideas is evident not only in Ahmad Amin's essays, which appeared in prominent cultural magazines such as Al-Risala and Al-Thaqafa, and which later compiled a stream of thought, but also in the series of the books frequently referenced Muhammad Iqbal's The Development of Metaphysics in Persia and Syed Ameer Ali's The Spirit of Islam. He also cited works like Hujjatullah al-Baligha by Shah Waliullah Dehlvi and several English writings from India. And finally, through the Committee of Writings, Translations and Publication, Ahmad Amin played a significant role in bridging the Arabic version of Allama Iqbal's reconstructions of religious thought in Islam to Egyptian audience. Ahmad Amin says, وتقرأ لسيد محمد إقبال فتجده يعرض لفلسفة كانت فإذا هو دارس عميق والغزالي فإذا هو باحث دقيق ويقارن بين النصرانية والإسلام فيكشف عن باحث كبير فيما يكتب ويعرض لشعراء الألمان كجوة فيحللهم تحليلا يدعو إلى الإعجاب ويتكلم في المعتزلة والصوفية فإذا هو قد تغلغل في أعماقهم واستبطن دخائلهم ثم عرض تعاليمهم كما يعرض الأوروبي فلسفة قومه شائقة عذبة ولذيذة. He means when reading, Muhammad Iqbal finds a profound engagement with Kant's philosophy reflecting the depth of the meticulous scholar. His exploration of Al-Ghazali showcases the precision of a diligent researcher. In his comparison between Christianity and Islam, he demonstrates the intellectual rigor of a distinguished thinker. And turning to the German poets such as Goethe, Iqbal offers analysis marked by an impressive depth and clarity that elicit admiration. When addressing the doctrines of the Mu'tazila and Sufism, he delves deeply into their essence and unfolds or uncovers their core intricacies. He presents their teaching with the same elegance and clarity as an European scholar expounding on the philosophy of their own culture, engaging, refined, and profoundly enriching. Ahmad Amin's engagement with I'tizal and Mu'tazilism were primarily cultural and historical, influenced by the writings of Syed Ameer Ali rather than the theological works of Indian scholars. While figures like Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and Chirag Ali focused on disseminating Mu'tazilite doctrines, Ameer Ali placed greater emphasis on situating the Mu'tazila in their proper historical context. For instance, Syed Ameer Ali praised Wasil ibn Atta, the founder of I'tizal, for leading a movement that dominated intellectual life for centuries with the support of the enlightened rulers, fostering unprecedented national and intellectual growth. He noted that rationalism flourished under rulers like Caliph Ma'mun, who infused the rationalist spirit into the Muslim world, achieving a prominence and his words perhaps not seen even in the modern Europe. Ameer Ali's critique of Caliph Mutawakkil, traditionally celebrated as the restorer of orthodoxy, was scathing. He described him as a cruel drunken sot whose alliance with the conservative factions led to the closure of the universities, the persecution of the rationalists, and the suppression of the intellectual pacifists. And these waves, while controversial, resonated with Ahmad Amin's broader historical approach. Golzi remarked on the exuberant praise for the Mu'tazila in such accounts, but Ahmad Amin adopted a more balanced stance. While he admired their intellectual legacy, his works such as Dawn of Islam and Forenoon of Islam gave significant attention to Mu'tazilite thought. And in these he explored their core doctrines, their leading figures, and even the contentious theological debates over whether Quran was created or eternal. And revisiting this issue, long buried by traditionalist dominance, was bold and reflective of Ahmad Amin's critical engagement. Amin's portrayal highlighted figures such as Al-Allaf, Al-Nizam, and Al-Jahiz, and he contrasted their intellectual vitality with what he saw as the somber faith of masses. His work marked a significant shift, offering a sympathetic and extensive treatment of Mu'tazilite history and philosophy by a Sunni scholar, a rarity since the rationalists' defeat by traditionalists. And despite his admiration, Ahmad Amin's stance was not without ambivalence. He celebrated Mu'tazila as defender of Islam, emphasizing the commitment to rational thought within the bounds of the divine revelation and God's existence. And he said that the theologian is like an advocate who defends what he believes to be the truth, using argument to prove and support his case. Ahmad Amin's contributions bridged the gap between the cultural and historical studies of the Mu'tazila, and it made their intellectual heritage accessible while maintaining a critical, balanced perspective. Ahmad Amin drew a distinction between the roles of the philosophers and theologians in Islamic thought. He viewed the philosopher as something or as someone is striving for objectivity and which is close to a just judge whose research is driven by reason and unconstrained by dogma. In his view, the philosopher gives reason full scope to examine all matters without restrictions, neither limiting his sphere of operation nor recognizing any realm beyond his reach. He attributed this rational approach to Mu'tazila, considering them the model of a scientific Muslim mindset. And according to Ahmad Amin, the Mu'tazila played a key role in introducing Greek philosophy into Islamic thought, though he was careful to differentiate theological rationalism from Islamic philosophy. Theology for Ahmad Amin grew organically within Islamic tradition, much like jurisprudence, the fiqh, and rhetoric or balagha, while philosophy was largely of foreign import. Ahmad Amin explained, we acknowledge theology and Islamic science, even though it contains the elements of Greek philosophy. However, the works of Al-Kindi and Al-Farabi and Ibn Sina cannot be called Islamic philosophy. For Ahmad Amin, theology, with its blend of the Quranic principles and rational inquiry, better reflected the Muslim intellectual identity than philosophy, which he saw as a wholesale assimilation of the Greek thought. And this aligned with his vision of synthesis encapsulated in his motto of lopping and grafting, at-taqlim wa-ta'lim, which emphasizes adopting and integrating foreign ideas into the Islamic culture while preserving its essence. Ahmad Amin's frequent references to the limits imposed by revelation illustrates his ambivalence. While he admired unrestricted inquiry, he also valued preserving Muslim identity and ensuring that synthesis respected the Quran's authority. Ahmad Amin said, with the Mu'tazilite theologians, references to the verses of the Quran and reliance on them took precedence over the Greek philosophy. Theology is a mixture of both, but it expresses the Muslim personality more strongly than philosophy does. And this balancing act between the unrestricted rational inquiry and the constraints of the revelation defined Ahmad Amin's nuanced view of theology and philosophy. He saw theology as a bridge between the tradition and reason, a synthesis that preserved the Islamic identity while engaging with external influences. Ahmad Amin distinguished between the roles of the philosophers and the Mu'tazila in Islamic intellectual history, and he favored the Mu'tazila for their active engagement with the society and their reformist zeal. He argued that while philosophers inherited much from Mu'tazila, their relationship with Islam was peripheral and concerned only with the aligning philosophical opinions to religion when necessary. Ahmad Amin believed the philosophers with the philosophy were like a Greek delegation in the land of Islam. They had nothing to do with the interests of the nation or the actual life of the Muslims, except in the cases of the dispute. The Mu'tazila, on the other hand, wanted to rule, reform, and guide. They were not content to live in isolation. Amin's preference to the Mu'tazila stemmed not only from their intellectual contributions, but also from their ethical and societal engagement. He admired their reformist spirit, which he saw as a precursor to the modern Muslim Renaissance, and his words, after the Inquisitions, the cause of the Mu'tazila lost their vigor, and for about 1,000 years, Muslims remained under the influence of the conservatives. The modern Renaissance, however, exhibits Mu'tazilite traits. It knows doubt and experiment, believes in the rules of the reason, respects the freedom of discussion and research, and values the accountability of the man. And all these are the principles for which the Mu'tazilite fought and died. The key difference is that the Mu'tazilism was rooted in religion, while the modern Renaissance is based on the pure reason. Ahmad Amin also highlighted the Mu'tazilites' role in fostering intellectual freedom and personal responsibility, which he linked to their revolutionary conceptions of God. Rejecting the anthropomorphic and arbitrary image of God presented by the traditionalists, the Mu'tazila emphasized a just and loving God. And this shift, Amin argued, liberated people from the superstition and inspired intellectual inquiry. He credited Mu'tazilite thinkers like An-Nazam and Al-Jahiz for embodying the spirit of the investigation and noting that their influence extended beyond their time. Ahmad Amin believes that studying thinkers like Einstein and Hobbes didn't mean abandoning of a Muslim identity. In Forenoon of Islam, he idealized the peaceful competition between the Mu'tazila, a progressive party, and Muhaddithin, a conservative party. However, in a later essay, his portrayal of the conflict became somewhat one-sided. For instance, he exaggerated the Mu'tazilite roles, claiming that the entire Western science is nothing but an innovation of the Mu'tazila. Had their school of thought not been extinguished, the West wouldn't have borrowed their achievements and Muslim would still be the instructor of the world. And despite such occasional overstatement, Ahmad Amin's oral contribution remains significant. His passion for reform and education often led him to be impatient with the shortcomings of the Muslim world. His greatest achievement was restoring the rightful recognition of the intellectual contribution of the Mu'tazila. However, Ahmad Amin understood that simply revisiting tradition through historical representation was insufficient. He highlighted how the decline of the Mu'tazila contributed to the stagnation in the Muslim world, and he said, with the acceptance of the methods of the Western civilization, Muslims began to imitate foreigners instead of standing on their own legs. And this imitation created inferiority complexes in them. And Ahmad Amin, inspired by reformers like Muhammad Abdu and Rashid Rida, sought to address the inferiority complex of the Muslim by revisiting the intellectual legacy of the Mu'tazila. He believed in reviving the rationalist spirit to inspire Muslims towards progress and self-confidence. To achieve this, Ahmad Amin edited and republished the key works of Abu Hayyan al-Tawhidi, whom he admired as the humanist and symbol of intellectual refinement during the height of Mu'tazilism. Abu Hayyan al-Tawhidi, known for his ideal of the al-insan al-kamil, the perfect human, represented a period when rationalism and free thought thrived in Islam. Ahmad Amin's work reflected his belief that the decline of the Mu'tazila marked a catastrophic loss for Muslims. He argued that the end of the Mu'tazila was one of the greatest catastrophes for Muslims, a catastrophe they inflicted upon themselves. And trying the parallels between the rationalist movement of the Mu'tazila and modern needs, Ahmad Amin emphasized that the spirit of the critical inquiry, moderation, and reason was essential for solving the contemporary problems. He shared the view that the freedom of thought and rationalism were crucial for progress, much like the European Enlightenment. For Amin, the Mu'tazilites' contributions went beyond theology. They embodied a critical and liberating spirit that could help Muslims bridge the divide between tradition and modernity. And this spirit, believed, was vital for widening polarization between the literist conservatives and radical secularists, ensuring a balanced path forward for Muslim societies.